Okay, good afternoon. I'm Edidion Wakabe coming to you from Nigeria. I want to talk about beer again. In the first video, I had talked about the ingredients of beer, being hops, being one of them. I emphasized on that. Now, I want to talk about beer. The process of making beer is known as brewing. A dedicated building for the making of beer is called a brewery. A company that makes beer is called either a brewery or a brewing company. Beer made on a domestic scale for non-commercial reasons is classified as home brewing. Brewing beer is subject to legislation and taxation in developed countries, which from the late 19th century largely restricted brewing to a commercial operation only. The purpose of brewing is to convert a starch sauce into a sugary liquid called wort, and to convert the wort through the fermentation process effected by yeast into the alcoholic beverage known as beer. There are several steps in the brewing process, which include malting, milling, mashing, lautering, boiling, fermenting, conditioning, filtering, and packaging. There are three main fermentation methods: warm, cool, and wild or spontaneous. Fermentation may take place in open or closed vessels. There may be second fermentation that can take place in the brewery, in the cask, or in the bottle. The wort is prepared by mixing the starch sauce with hot water, and it is known as mashing. Hot water is mixed with crushed malt or malts. The mashing process takes around 1 to 2 hours, during which the starches are converted to sugars, and then the sweet wort is strained off the grains. The grains are now washed in a process known as spudging. The process of filtering the grain from the wort and spudged water is called wort separation. I know this is not as interesting as what it should have been, but just make do with it, please. The sweet wort collected from spudging is put into a kettle or copper and boiled, usually for about 1 hour. During boiling, water in the wort evaporates, but the sugars and other components of the wort remain. This allows more efficient use of the starch sauces in the beer. Boiling also destroys any remaining enzymes left over. Hops are added during boiling as a source of bitterness, flavor, and aroma. Hops may be added at more than one point during the boil. The longer the hops are boiled, the more bitterness they contribute, but the less hop flavor and aroma remains in the beer. After boiling, the wort is now cooled, ready for the yeast. In some breweries, the hop wort may pass through a hop pack to add aromatic flavoring and to act as a filter. During fermentation, the wort becomes beer in a process where the yeast converts sugar into alcohol and carbon dioxide. This requires a week to months, depending on the type of yeast and strength of the beer. In addition to producing alcohol, fine particulate matter suspended in the wort settles during fermentation. Once fermentation is complete, the yeast also settles, leaving the beer clear. Fermentation is sometimes carried out in 2 stages, primary and secondary. Once most of the alcohol has been produced during primary fermentation, the beer is transferred to a new vessel and allowed a period of secondary fermentation. Secondary fermentation is used when the beer requires long storage before packaging or greater clarity. When the beer has fermented, it is packaged either into cask, ale, or kegs, aluminum cans or bottles for other sorts of beer. The basic ingredients of beer are water, a starch sauce such as malted barley able to be converted to sugars then fermented. Less widely used starch sauces include millet, sorghum, and cassava roots in Africa, and potato in Brazil, and agave in Mexico, among others. The amount of each starch sauce in a beer recipe is collectively called the grain bill. Water beer is composed mostly of water. Regions have water with different mineral components. As a result, different regions were originally better suited to making certain types of beer, thus giving them a regional character. For example, Dublin has hard water well suited to making stout, such as Guinness, while the Pilsen region has soft water well suited to making Pilsner, such as Pilsner Urquell. The waters of Burton in England contain gypsum, which benefits making pale ale. I don't want to bother you with that. The starch source in a beer provides the fermentable material and is a key determinant of the strength and flavor of the beer. The most common starch source used in beer is malted grain. Grain is malted by soaking it in water, etc. Yeast is the microorganism that is responsible for fermentation in beer. Yeast metabolizes the sugars extracted from grains, which produces alcohol and carbon dioxide and thereby turns water into beer. In addition to fermenting the beer, yeast influences the character and flavor. Flavoring beer is the sole major commercial use of hops. The flower of the hop vine is used as a flavoring and preservative agent in nearly all beer made today. The flowers themselves are often called hops. The first historical mention of the use of hops in beer was from 822 AD in Monastery Rules, written by Adalhard the Elder, also known as Adalhard of Cobbey, though the date formally given for widespread cultivation of hops for use in beer is the 13th century. I don't want to bother you with that. Hops contain several characteristics that brewers desire in beer. Hops contribute a bitterness that balances the sweetness of the malt. Hops have an antibiotic effect that favors the activity of brewer's yeast over less desirable microorganisms. Brewing at home is subject to regulation and prohibition in many countries. Restrictions on home brewing were lifted in the UK in 1963. Australia followed suit in 1972 and the USA in 1978, though individual states were allowed to pass their own laws limiting production. That's all we have for now. Thank you very much.